Every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday. Tuesday, Casual Tuesday. Wednesday, Casual Hump Day. Thursday, Casual Thurs. That's what we call it. And Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, August 11th, 2023. My name is Emma Vigeland, in for Sam Seder, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live, I need to do that, steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. Whew! On the program today, Alex Pareene of The New Republic and the AP newsletter, The Good One, will be with us. And later in the show, Francesca Fiorentini of the Bitchuation Room will also be with us. Meanwhile, the death toll in Maui rises to 55, making it one of the deadliest U.S. wildfires in the last 100 years. Climate activists and scientists are skeptical, to say the least, about Biden's implementation of direct capture technology to vacuum greenhouse gases from the atmosphere, paying Warren Buffett's company to do so. Meanwhile, Biden sends a stern letter to red states kicking people off Medicaid rolls in the past few months. At least 4 million have been removed. The special counsel proposes a January trial for Trump's election interference case. Trump should appeal that, or try to push it. Trump and his aide, Walt Nauta, plead not guilty in the stolen documents case. James Comer says he'll subpoena the Biden crime family over their investigation in search of a crime. Yawn. Manchin once again threatens to leave the Democratic Party. Double yawn. Tommy Tuberville may actually live in Florida, not Alabama, according to records, financial records. Unions push the California legislature to re-implement unemployment benefits for striking workers during the final stretch of their legislative session. The Supreme Court temporarily blocks a sweetheart opioid settlement deal for the Sackler family, which would have shielded them from additional liability. The New York City Corrections Watchdog Agency sues the city over a lack of transparency about Rikers. Arizona Democrats lose a lawsuit trying to block the No Labels Party from getting ballot access. 2 years after our evacuation, tens of thousands of Afghans still waiting for the U.S. visas they were promised. And lastly, 1 suspect was killed and 6 arrested in the assassination of Ecuador's presidential candidate, Fernando Villavicencio. All with alleged drug trafficking ties. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome to the show, everybody. I have a hair, a loose hair on my lip, and I don't know where it is. It's like, it's bothering me, causing me to cough.
Phantom hair.
What is this? There it is. There it is. I got it. Hello, everybody.
Hello,
Casual
Emma.
Friday. No, I didn't get it. God damn it. I'm going to have to do this in the break. I don't know what's going on. It's like stuck in my lipstick or something like that. Driving me insane. But I did just want to correct myself because yesterday I said this and I was wrong. That the Biden Department of Justice has not sued Greg Abbott over his stuff at the border. They have. I just forgot about it. They sued Abbott last month about the buoy barrier. So that's good. I still think our point about him using the bully pulpit to combat it stands. But regardless, it's just wanted to issue that correction at the start of the show because I was incorrect in my commentary about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, lawyers first is one way to do this. And I assume it's the way, like, probably the most path of least resistance. I do feel like there should be some way for the American federal government to assert its own authority over the borders and say, hey, actually, we're not going to let state governors put up like devices that
Death
like
traps.
the Saw series would be jealous of, like, and kill people with them.
Yeah, right, exactly. Let's touch on this though. Obviously, major devastation in Hawaii right now. After the wildfires in Maui, the one of the deadliest wildfires in the last 100 years. I think it's currently only second to the ones in 2018 in California. And all of these deadly fires heavily concentrated in recent years. And it's obvious that this is a climate change related trend. Hawaii is typically associated with lush forests and fauna, but Hawaii's not even safe from drying caused by climate change. And there was an analysis done by the University of Hawaii of rainfall at a variety of monitoring sites, including in Hawaii. And since 1990, rainfall has been 31% lower in wet season and 6% lower in dry season in Hawaii. And that was work published in 2015, according to the New York Times. And on top of that, Hawaii's the decline in agriculture, the change in land use, according to experts, private property with foreign kinds of grass, landowners using it for their own private interests, has made Hawaii more susceptible to this kind of thing. And the destruction is just horrific. This is Yidris Nora, who is a resident of Maui, who spoke to Sky News about how he had to jump into the ocean on police orders to escape the flames.
We keep hearing explosions. We were hearing screams out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't know. We were hearing people throwing up. We didn't know where they were. The smoke was just keep getting all black. And then, you know, I called the cops again. They couldn't come. The third time I called them, they said, you have to go in the water. And I said, you want us to jump in the hurricane? It's black, you know. The ocean was pulling us at the same time. We were trying to have debris falling on us. We're trying to get wet and not burn.
How long were you in the water for before you were rescued?
Like 3 hours, maybe, something like that.
About 3.
Yeah.
It sounds miraculous that you were able to survive.
I didn't think. I just prayed and I said, God, please not today. I didn't know what to say. This is it. You know,
I did the same thing. I was like, when I was on my back in the water going, I was like, not today, God. Not, just not today. Not like this.
I mean, just must have been terrifying to be in the ocean and it's completely black from all the smoke and
between the
soot. Water
and flames. It's like,
I mean, they were the lucky ones though at the same time. Right. As I said in headlines, at least 55 dead at this point, and that number is going to continue to tick up. This is another a clip here. ABC News, they ran this segment on one of their meteorologists who is based in Hawaii, Malika Dudley, and she speaks about her experience seeking refuge from the flames.
Malika Dudley, a meteorologist at our Honolulu station KITV, but also a Maui resident forced to flee with her family in the middle of the night, describing that experience in her own words.
We got a call from our neighbor who said, get out of your house. And we looked out the window and there was a red glow outside of our window. The fire was right above our property. Woke up all the children, piled them into my car. I've got 3 children and I have a child of a friend with me as well, which just kind of heightens that level of anxiety quite immediately, if you will. And we started to drive towards my best friend's house. We knocked on her door, woke them up at 4 a.m. And that's where we've been sheltering ever since. Unfortunately, other areas on the island are still right in the thick of it and still dealing with loss of communication. People can't get in touch with their family members. We don't know how many structures have been taken. And last night was like Armageddon. It was wild driving back along the Central Valley and seeing 2 fires up on the hill and a massive fire building over another part of the island down south in Kihei. That's what you're showing right now. And knowing that on the opposite side of the island in Lahaina, people were literally running for their lives.
Could really sense the emotion in her voice there.
I mean, it is. She mentions the structures there. Lahaina, once the capital of the Kingdom of Hawaii before we colonized Hawaii, has been devastated. In particular, many ancient, like, indigenous structures that have been severely damaged. And indigenous activists have warned about the disrespect of the Hawaiian ecosystem by colonizers for decades before this. Before, during, after Hawaii's colonization, that was always at the heart of the protestations because of the capitalist desires of the United States. And now Maui in particular, it's become a vacation destination for a lot of people, second homes for the wealthy. And as I mentioned earlier, that change in the grass complexion, according to experts, has contributed to this, as well as general climate trends, which, like, as the temperature gets hotter, there's less cloud cover in Hawaii. The clouds are thinned out, and that means higher temperatures. Or I should say, the higher temperatures thin out the clouds, which means that there's less rolling clouds with rainfall in Hawaii. And it also shifts patterns in the La Niñas, which bring rainfall seasonally to Hawaii. So it's all inextricably linked.
As far as like states that are the most concerned with climate change, I would think, and I'm looking for numbers on this, but I think Hawaii had got to be up there because you're such you're small speck in the middle of the ocean in a delicate ecosystem. And yeah, I mean, changes like this where you're seeing stuff burn that hasn't burned in thousands, like, you know, it's horrible.
It's horrible. I mean, what else can you say? But like, we're gonna have to start getting serious. Like this summer.
Oh yeah, I mean, I appreciate Rokana calling on who I have beef with regards to Silicon Valley connections and stuff like that. But calling on Biden to do the climate emergency, like
he did. Oh, that's good.
Oh, he called on it. Yeah, I thought you said Biden did call.
No. He did ? Yeah.
Rose said like, yeah, like it's time to do a climate emergency, and it is.
All right, guys. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to Alex Pareene about the news of the week. We are back, and we are joined now by Alex Pareene, friend of the show, one of the best BFFs of the show. I mean, honestly.
Wow. Yeah, thank you.
Definitely, like, you're in the best friend competition.
Sits by us at lunch.
You have to wear pink. Of the AP newsletter, contributing editor at the New Republic, host of the Politics of Everything. Alex, thanks so much for coming on.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I feel very welcome now that I know I'm in the top tier of best friends.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to do more, like maybe send me money to get to best friend status, but sure. It's definitely up there. I guess the big news of the week, at least for me, is the issue 1 victory for the Democrats, for the left, for anybody that cares about a person's right to choose when they want to end a pregnancy. In Ohio. I mean, that was just really important, I think, not just for Ohio, not just for abortion, but for what it means electorally, honestly, for the Democrats going into next year's elections. What was your reaction, Alex?
I mean, I was obviously very heartened by I was heartened by it, and I was glad at the result. I also, I'm not going to pretend that I predicted it, but it's not like I was shocked at the result, because I think this feels like something that we've been talking about for a while now. That on a lot of these issues that are treated as hot button or controversial or wedge issues, it's been the case for a while now that like the liberal side of the issue is just generally more popular even than the Democratic Party is. And it's not just reproductive rights. Like you can go down a sort of list of things that are treated as divisive in this country, including a lot of stuff that Democrats ostensibly support. And like the issues are often more popular than the politicians. And especially in places like the Midwest, you have a recent history, extensive recent history electorally of like ballot referenda and things like that, outperforming Democratic politicians themselves when it comes to labor, reproductive rights, and things like that.
And marijuana, there were a few moments.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, come on, we can all get behind that here. Everybody here can get behind that. But like, it's really important, I think, as a lesson for the Democrats to learn, because the party branding, if the face of the party is Biden and Kamala Harris, like that's not a strong brand. Right. But if the face of the party are the issues that are widely popular, and you do that through ballot initiatives, especially because Arizona seems to be taking a page out of others' books on this, and they're going to do, or at least they're on track to potentially do an abortion ballot referendum, a ballot measure in November 2024, which would be massive because Arizona's a swing state. But like it just, that driving turnout via issues like abortion, that seems to be in the short term the only way that the Democrats are going to have success, and I think they can have success with it.
I think they absolutely can, and it's going to rely on something that I think some Democratic parties in the country are getting better at, but something that does not come naturally to old guard Democrats, and that is clarifying positions on the issues rather than muddying them. It's like sort of the opposite of triangulating. The instinct for a lot of old guard Democrats is to blur the distinctions between the parties and then run on essentially people and personalities to say, we will find the most qualified candidate and we will blur the issues and people will vote for our most qualified candidate. And you look at the actual situation on the ground in a lot of the country right now, and something like the opposite approach is true. You want to clarify for the voters, this is what we stand for. This is what they stand for. That's actually a lot of work. There's a lot of work done to sort of muddy the distinctions between the parties, and especially when it comes to a lot of these issues that end up on ballot referenda, right? Like, there's been polling that says people just simply do not believe the actual Republican Party agenda, right? Like, they just don't actually believe they mean it. And when something like, these abortion referenda come up, that clarifies the issue. And instead of triangulating, instead of blurring distinctions, what you want to do is clarify for voters and say, like, we're the ones on the side of the thing that you like, and the other side is against it. And it like sounds simple, but it actually has historically been difficult.
And that was embedded both in the issue that was oh, nice shirt, by the way, WGA. I just saw that. Yeah, very cool. Yeah. That was embedded both in the issue of abortion that was being, adjudicated, I guess, like through this issue 1 measure to raise the threshold for constitutional amendments from a simple majority to 60% through ballot initiatives, and in the form, right? Because this was yet another effort by the Republican Party to rig the rules in favor of minoritarian rule. I mean, they've done that through gerrymandering. Yeah. They've done that. They continue to do that through like and the Democrats help them through the upholding of the filibuster in the Senate. Like, this is and through their stacking of the judiciary and their successful stacking of the Supreme Court. This is a hallmark of their strategy, and the only way that the Democrats seem to, be able to combat it is, as we say, the focus on the core of the issue that is so widely popular.
Yeah, and I think it goes to, again, probably a good sign for the success of that conservative strategy, or a good sign for the eventual defeat of that conservative strategy, that the tactic of picking fights in weirdly timed off-year elections in order to ensconce anti-majoritarian rules is kind of backfiring, because that's been something that's really, really hard to get normal people to, fired up about, is the sort of anti-majoritarian tendencies of the right, and the sort of traditional Democratic response of like, well, just beat him at the ballot box just doesn't work when you're sort of systematically underrepresented in every level of government. So the fact that there has been success politically, messaging wise and turnout wise on what are treated as these sort of tactical and sometimes even sort of abstract issues of governance is, I mean, it's difficult to sustain that, but it's definitely a good sign.
Yeah, I don't think it's sustainable either. I mean, right now the Republicans are in a position where they have bumped up against, they finally found like the bottom of the hole that they've dug themselves into.
Yeah.
And they got a bunch of treasure along the way, right? Which was, we're going to focus on turning out our base. And they were successful for decades with this strategy.
Yep.
And it's all about, giving the base what they want, no matter how absurd, how hateful. And then we'll be able to cut a bunch of taxes for the rich along the way. Win-win. And now, though, with Trump at the helm of the party, and with like that imagery of January 6th, when you say people don't believe Republicans,
yeah,
but they have no choice but to believe them now.
Yeah.
That they're fine with overturning the election. They saw it in the flesh, and I think that like abortion in January 6th, it's a good electoral strategy for Democrats.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks to sound like an accelerationist, but like that's where you end up, just with the facts on the ground. But like the fact is, they have shown in a way that gets through to just about everyone what they plan to do with power, how they plan to get power, and what they plan to do with it, and letting them show that themselves. You wish it hadn't come to that, but now that it has, you got to press the issue.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because that was, almost sometimes like what the strategy was against Trump, right? When Hillary was running against him, give him enough rope to hang himself, but then he ended up actually being president.
Well, right.
Then he got the rope, saved some for his supporters with Mike Pence.
The problem with pursuing that as an intentional strategy is that like it allows them to get all of these victories first.
Yes. Yeah.
But what, like, the thing is, like, once those happen, you have to press the issue. And I just, like, that's just sort of where we are now.
Exactly. Speaking of that guy named Trump.
Sorry. Who again?
I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him, but.
Oh, the guy from Home Alone? The guy from Home Alone 2? Yeah.
That guy and The Apprentice and The Celebrity Apprentice, which, I mean, that's always fun to
Is this our Where Are They Now segment? The Where Are They?
Yeah, it is. It's now we're doing television critique.
Herschel, I'm not gay, but if I was,
I'd be gay for you.
But you're fired.
And then flash forward, he's the Republican nominee for Senate. But like, it's just these Jack Smith. I'm not sure what your reaction was to the indictment. And I'm trying not to lib out here, but sometimes that's like how I grew up, and I reverted to that form. I read like a majority of that indictment, And you get a little bit of like legal excitement from it because it is very well crafted, and the arguments that are put forth are substantiated. The timeline's quite clear. The fact that the all of the charges can be applied to basically all of the accusations streamlines this trial process in a very neat way, and the strategy of going for Trump first, not indicting the co-conspirators until after this is done, to streamline the process and not have the trials get intertwined. Once Giuliani's charged, which should be once Eastman is, once Jeff Clark and Sidney Powell, etc. But I found it to be impressive and hopefully effective.
Yeah, I mean, I have not read the entire indictment. I think I read part of the Times annotated one, but not the entire thing. But I think there's no reason to fight the urge to live out because I think you can live out within reason, right? Because I think it's rare enough that sort of consequences happen to powerful people anyway in this society that even though there's a long way to go here still, I think you can just be perfectly satisfied with seeing this play out the way it has, even if it came to some extent very, 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 very late. And so I think everyone should feel free to allow themselves to enjoy bad consequences happening to Donald Trump without feeling like it makes them too lib.
Yeah, I mean,
do you think there's too much focus on I see people moving too quickly to well, he's still gonna win the primaries. Yeah, he might. I don't know that. I feel like that those are two disconnected things.
I mean, they have the connection of electoral consequences potentially for him in the primary, but we can meet the moment of this guy's getting charged for basically trying to coup.
I don't think the prosecutors should be well, this might give him an extra boost in the primary. Let's hold back on this. That'd be an inappropriate way
I agree.
And that's actually, I think you're totally, because that's actually pundit brain speaking, right? When you look at anything that happens, and you say, what does this mean for Iowa? What does this mean in New Hampshire? That's pure pundit brain. And obviously we shouldn't want prosecutors to have that in mind when they're doing anything. But yeah, I mean, I think
that said, they do have it in mind.
They do obviously have it in mind, right?
Then I'm going to be cynical and say, I mean, they are trying to get this trial through as
well. They're
ASAP.
Trying to,
and that's why they propose the trial date of January 2nd, and then Trump's going to counter. I'm sure they'll find some middle ground, right? But that's still pretty close to Super Tuesday, to be honest with you.
Yes. Yeah. But I think that it's also a sort of trap to put yourself in the everything is good news for Donald Trump mindset, right? Where it's I don't know, going to prison can be the best thing that happens to Donald Trump. I don't actually think that's true.
Right. No. Yeah, that would be bad.
I don't think violating his bond agreement is exactly how he wanted to.
Yeah, and he though, man, I mean, Sam says it like this. This is an existential thing for him. He is running to save his own ass because I think that he's gonna get convicted on at least one of these or two counts. I mean, and I think it's fair to speculate because this is a very different trial. It's one of the most important trials, arguably, in the history of the country, and but we have a lot of the facts already available to us based on reporting from the time. And we know that this stuff happened.
Yeah, no,
and so once he gets, I think he will get convicted. And then that opens up a real, I mean, we don't know what the future holds really, but it opens up a series of more questions about how the Republican Party is going to respond, how his supporters will respond,
How the state will respond.
how the state will respond, how he will appeal. He will appeal to the Supreme Court most likely. I mean, what that looks like, we're just at the beginning of this complete shit show.
I mean, it could just definitely lead to some sort of insane constitutional crisis, like where, and not to speculate too much here, but obviously we've had people run for president from prison before, not to compare Trump to the great Eugene Debs.
Right.
Thank you, yes.
Just like him.
But because again, like nothing in the Constitution says you got to be out of jail to be president. Just like they didn't think of that when they wrote it. But
right.
the sort of elite mindset that like, well, it's just not done to lock up like people who might be president. That's just not done. Like that could become like a legal argument with some force behind it if it comes down to it, which is like not outside the realm of possibility, but also very bizarre thinking. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I agree with you that he will end up convicted on something, but beyond that, it's just like too many weird factors to even begin to predict anything.
You mentioned this earlier, but how this should have happened much earlier.
Right.
And it should have, but Merrick Garland didn't want to do anything. That's
you got to move forward.
This guy's like a ghost.
Turn the page.
That is his I mean, there's a reason he was an Obama appointee to the Supreme Court, and he has that kind of brain, and he did not want to get mired in the politics of it and what have you. But Bradley just sent this to me a few minutes ago. Garland appointed a special counsel, a man named David C. Weiss, the U.S. attorney in Delaware, to handle the Hunter Biden inquiry now. So we're having a separate special counsel investigation.
And just for
Hunter Biden.
And just for context, Weiss was the U.S. attorney, Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in Delaware, who had handed down the tax and gun charges that Republicans were speculating but there was foul play because he wasn't like appointed to be a special counsel in that investigation. So now it's seemingly, from my view, per some political pressure because of the scuttled plea agreement, Garland is now, okay, I'll make Weiss a special counsel to sort of duck the claims that I wouldn't have made him a special counsel otherwise.
How many more Republicans are we going to appoint as special counsels to investigate these things, to prove the Republicans wrong in this way, or make it seem super? I mean, I guess James Comer's just going to drop his probe now in the House. In the House, I mean. The Biden crime family, they're done with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're done. They've been appeased now. And I mean, it's the oldest joke in Washington. I mean, you can go back to the 90s. And you go back further. First of all, like, there's only ever been Republicans in charge of the FBI. Like, actual, card-carrying Republicans are the only people who've ever been in charge of the FBI. But, it's been a joke literally since Clinton that, in order to prove fairness, only Republicans are allowed to investigate anything. And which is bizarre, and so it leads to these situations where Republican daddy lawmen are the ones who are come in to take on these special investigations just to prove that there's no political bias here. And when the Republican investigators go after Republican candidates, no one is ever appeased by their political background. It has never worked once. It has never worked once to make the conservatives say, well, I guess this must be a totally fair and above board investigation because they put an old Republican guy in charge of it.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna say, wait, we were full of shit. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh yeah.
I guess we'll just keep it up.
Yeah.
I mean, is Jack Smith am I mistaken? Jack Smith's a Republican, right?
I think he is. I'm 90% sure he is. Yeah.
Bradley's going to look that up, but I mean, certainly Robert Mueller was.
Yep, Mueller was.
Oh, he's an independent. Jack Smith
okay.
is.
Independent, yeah.
Yeah.
That's sus.
Yeah,
he's actually
so
he's a big
probably
Ron Paul guy.
Yeah. and like this is separate also from the other special counsel investigation that Merrick Garland okayed related to Biden, which is the special counsel investigation of the documents, which was another capitulation to Republicans saying, well, what about Biden? Even though the issue was not the possession of the classified documents.
Right.
That was never the issue.
Yeah.
Because they gave Trump a million opportunities to return them.
Yes, they were really, really begging him to, basically. They were like, please don't make us do anything.
Please don't make us prosecute you. And Trump was like, I need my presidential Horcruxes, please. And like
we're gonna try as hard as we can to look the other way. If you could just do us a little solid here.
It's like in the dorms, like, hey man, you borrowed my Lost season 6 box set.
Can you just return it?
I don't want to make it a thing. I really don't want to make it a thing.
Yeah, but cool. I'd like it back. And Pence and Biden both returned everything voluntarily. So we don't need a freaking special. Like, what is Merrick Garland good for, honestly, right now? Except for not being around, not being visible, and caving to right-wing, like, dishonest whataboutisms about Biden as it relates to Trump corruption. Like, honestly, this just emboldens them and makes their claims sound more legitimate than they are.
Yeah, and I mean, Merrick Garland is one of the most useless people in Washington right now. But yes, I mean, I don't know. I truly could not tell you what he's good for beyond what you just said. And again, like, the political theory, and this has been a political theory they've been testing for years and years and years. The political theory behind a Merrick Garland-like person is to lower the temperature of partisanship. And like, congratulations, has that worked? Has the temperature been lowered? We've tried this so many times, and it's nice and cool partisan-wise everywhere now.
Yeah. And I mean, you can just see too what can be when you appoint somebody who actually wants to fight to a cabinet position. We're seeing it with Lena Khan and the FTC, and like what a different vision of the Democratic Party would be. Like Lena Khan's, she's a Warrenite, right, Bradley?
Yeah.
Or she's of the Warren school, Lena Khan. I'm 90% sure of that, but I just like to double check. Even a Warren presidency or something like that, or even moving the Democratic Party in that direction with more of those types of people, it makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's definitely more of a sort of mindset and generational thing than even an ideological thing. It's because I do think that even fairly centrist Democrats who are just younger than Biden would not have gone with a Garland-like pick, right? And I think that is partly from learning the lessons of the Obama administration, but just learning the lessons of the last 20 years too, and like just like a preference for people who do something rather than do nothing does not have to be ideological, but it sort of is in the Democratic Party for some reason. But I think like there's a lot of younger non-Biden people who have just more of a preference for just doing literally anything at all rather than hiding.
Right. And I think it really was Biden's attempt to say, well, the Justice Department was so politicized under Trump, and we're going to make it not so. And it just the value of that is to be, especially in a time when the Republicans are continuing down the path of being like this existential threat to democracy. It's just certainly not the time to defang yourself at one of the most important, at the highest level of like law enforcement in this country.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then, when you're coming in after a presidency where you're saying they were trying to politicize everything, essentially they have and when conservatives get back in power, they're going to do everything they can to implement it, but they have a playbook to, replace civil servants with partisan hacks like throughout the entire administrative state, like top to bottom. That's what their goal is. That's what their mission is. And when you come in, you know, and you're like, I'm the caretaker president who's going to bring the temperature back down, and everything got too politicized, so we're going to like depoliticize everything. Like step one is not to just like now declare this is a partisan-free zone. Step one is to like clear house. That's step one.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like you get rid of the hacks first. Like you go in there and you actually like clean house. And in order to then say like we are starting fresh, you don't just go in and be like, now that I've put a nice old man in charge, like all the bad political things are going to be done now.
Yeah, it's childish. Let's talk a bit about Ron DeSantis now, because since we last spoke, I'm not sure how many points he has dropped in Republican polls in states that he needs, like Iowa. I mean, he's doing a little better in Iowa now, but he's still dozens of points behind Trump.
All of his anecdotes about people pooping on New York sidewalks are really rocketing up to 17%.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, he loves, he did a number 2. I mean, wow, people just love to hear about that at rallies. Meanwhile, Trump's calling Christie a fat pig.
And talk about appliances.
Yeah. Just, I mean, I'm not sure what you anticipated when he announced his presidential run and the long ramp up to doing so. On our show, I believe, like, I was pretty skeptical that he would actually win the nomination and that he'd have the ability to really take on Trump. I think Sam agreed. It's been proven right. But what's been your reaction to seeing his numbers drop like a stone like this?
I mean, it's like satisfying, but because I hate the guy, but you know, it feels, and there are some really important differences in a post-Trump era to these prior elections, but like it feels like every 4 years we all like the people whose job it is to sort of do horse race coverage of Republican politics, like find a new Bobby Jindal or whatever and treat him as like
new Scott Walker
or Scott Walker,
new Jeb Bush, I mean, even Giuliani in 08, like, right?
Yeah, but like, you know, I think that it's important that like, because you have the sort of Christies and Giulianis to an extent, and the guys who sort of run in the businessman middle lane, but like every 4 years, there's also someone who wins Iowa, like a Mike Huckabee, or there's someone like a Bobby Jindal who is like a red meat warrior from a red state, who are like, especially in the early going, poll really well because conservatives like love these far right, you know, usually evangelical guys. And then they always sort of wither, like they always wither when it actually comes to and you know, we haven't actually gotten to the primaries yet, but it would not surprise me if DeSantis managed to win Iowa and then like flamed out from there. But it also wouldn't surprise me if he flamed out well before then. But you know, this is no one in Republican politics yet has any clue or strategy for how to deal with Trump being in the race. They just don't have any strategy for that. And so while he's in it, you know, all you can do is embarrass yourself further as you like try to stay relevant. So I don't know, not like I have a campaign advice for him, but it is entertaining to watch him, you know, flail around.
It seems ripe for sort of cultivating distrust in the Republican base, because if I'm a Trump supporter, I'm looking at every DeSantis guy being like, hey, you're like dependent on basically my guy getting taken down legally.
Yeah.
And don't act like that's not what you're thinking.
And he's still, and yet DeSantis though still won't really go at Trump.
No,
I
know.
Really won't.
And that's what I mean about none of them have any clue how to deal with Trump as long as he remains viable, because they can't even decide at the most basic level. They can't decide like, I mean, it's the exact same dance we saw them do when Trump first ran, which is like today we're going to like only have good things to say about Trump because we assume that he will quit and endorse us. And then or it's like now we're gonna like go on the attack, which doesn't work because I think I personally, again, not to give Donald Trump campaign advice, but I think it's crazy that he wants to skip the debates because Donald Trump debating a bunch of Republican politicians is by far the most likable Donald Trump that exists
Ever.
By far. And that did more to win him the election than anything else besides the nomination of Hillary Clinton.
I will never forget where I was watching Ted Cruz try to go after New York City, right? And say like New York values and all that crap. I mean, both nasally, him and DeSantis. And Trump just got really quiet after being a trash talker the whole goddamn debate. And he goes, on 9/11, I was there. And like, well, maybe we'll find that. It was one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, like he knows exactly
Amateurs.
Right. He'll attack. And then he's like invoking 9/11, just ruining his, and then he goes, and one of the greatest conservatives of all time, William F. Buckley, came out. Let's watch it, Bradley. I mean, come on. Bradley found that really quickly. Great job. I don't know. This is a bit of a throwback, obviously, but to me, this moment
pre-beard Ted trigger warning.
Cruz.
This is Ted Cruz before he had facial hair, so you're getting it sort of without any sort of medium.
You get to see the bubble chin. What's going on there?
I think most people know exactly what New York values are.
I am from New York.
What you're from New York, so you might not. But I promise you, in the state of South Carolina,
look at Trump's face.
They do.
He's so hurt.
And listen, there are many, many wonderful, wonderful working men and women in the state of New York. But everyone understands
Goldman Sachs
that the values in New York City are socially liberal or pro-abortion or pro-gay marriage, focused around money and the media. And I guess I can frame it another way. Not a lot of conservatives come out of Manhattan. I'm just saying.
Conservatives actually do come out of Manhattan, including William F. Buckley and others, just so you understand. And New York is a great place. It's got great people. It's got loving people, wonderful people. When the World Trade Center came down, I saw something that no place on earth could have handled more beautifully, more humanely than New York.
I mean,
two 110-story buildings come crashing down.
Well, just go to the end because I want to see Cruz's face. This is a bit of an edit. All right, here we go. Just go to it because Cruz's face is he does a little. He looks like he's peeing his pants.
Saw them come down, and we saw more death, and even the smell of death. Nobody understood it, and it was with us for months. The smell, the air, and we rebuilt downtown Manhattan. And everybody in the world watched, and everybody in the world loved New York and loved New Yorkers. And I have to tell you, that was a very insulting statement that Ted made.
And so, again, I say it's insanity that he thinks he shouldn't debate.
Yep.
Like that he thinks he shouldn't debate Republicans. That he thinks he shouldn't debate Ron DeSantis.
Right.
Like all the guy
for the general, yeah.
I mean, in the general, sure. But seriously, he will.
Well, they'd love it too. I mean, I saw that DeSantis was saying today something along the lines of, you got to show up. You got to show up. And I think he must have a sense that he's not going to.
Yeah, if I'm DeSantis, I'm praying he is not going to show up.
Are
Exactly.
you kidding me? Yeah, You're right, Alex. I was kind of like, well, what's the incentive? But I mean, I feel like I want him to show up because we're going to cover the debate.
So it's funny. It's funny too because Fox. It's also clear how desperate all of them are because Ronna McDaniel is making entreaties, like begging him to show up, and he's basically not committing to her.
Yeah.
Martha McCallum, who's co-paneling it, essentially did a to the camera pitch, being like, "It's a great opportunity for you, Mr. President." Yeah. and apparently, sources told Politico Playbook or Punchbowl, one of the two, that he's considering he wants to potentially go and sit in the audience.
Oh wow! That would be a really strong power move, honestly.
They were like the debate committee and like Fox, like they're not sure if they would like let him do that or if it would be like a security nightmare. But apparently, like he's mentioned it a few times, being like, "What if I just sat there and watched?"
Well,
them?
he has a wrestling background. He's literally going to come in with a chair.
Exactly. Like they do not. I think and when I say they don't know how to counter him, like at this point they know what they're dealing with, but they still don't know how to counter him. No. Because this is his background. His background is entertainment. His background is talk radio and wrestling and television. And like he's just better at this than all of them are. And so, again, if I'm Ron DeSantis, I'm like hoping he does not remember that he's actually much better on television than all the rest of these guys.
Oh yeah.
God Bless the USA comes on. Oh my God, that's Donald Trump's music.
And it would be YMCA. Wouldn't it be?
He goes up on stage, just boots one of them out of their podium, and be like, "All right."
Remember when he
Get out of here, Burgum.
Remember when he was coming on the stage at the RNC and there was like the shadow of him and he emerged?
that moment like gave me like bad goosebumps in the moment, because that was when there were like all this talk about Ted maybe doing something at the convention to try to take the nomination away, and Trump wasn't supposed to come out till Sunday, but he came out on Friday night to introduce his wife. Melania, and it was like first you hear the music and then you see his shadow projected
with that hair.
And, and he came out and it was basically the message was like, "Daddy's here, let's stop all the games." Okay.
Right.
That was gonna be God, that whole convention. That was gonna be again like that was gonna be Ted Cruz's like profile and courage, and he just did nothing again. Like he just
of course. I mean for all the talk we've in the political cycles I've been sentient for, I feel like there have been 6 different storylines about convention revolts, as if we're still like living in party machine days.
Yeah.
But this is the first time in my lifetime that it's possible for the RNC, if the guy's convicted, like
certainly
they're
more
actually
possible than it has been in many, many years. Yeah.
Totally. And still they might have a better chance like against the Democrats if they don't do that and Trump's still on the ballot. I don't even know, because his supporters would lose it. But
absolutely,
as like would make sense. I mean, it's anti-democratic, obviously. But before we let you go, Alex, I just wanted to ask your opinion quickly here on the latest ProPublica reporting about Clarence Thomas. And if the Democrats are going to do anything at all in the Senate, once they're in recess right now, right, Bradley? The Senate, once they come, both the Senate and the House, it's August. So once they come back in the fall, if they're going to do anything about Clarence Thomas going on at least 38 destination vacations paid for by these billionaires, according to ProPublica's tabulations. Dozens of private jet flights, or PJs as they're called, if you're in the know, helicopter rides, VIP seating and passes to college sports. Of course, Clarence Thomas likes college sports where the players don't get paid. And all these other like golf resorts and stuff paid for by the Blockbuster billionaire and oil baron Novelli. This guy, David Sokol, another top, executive rich guy, in addition to Harlan Crow, all these people that he's met through the Horatio Alger Association. It just seems like once he became a Supreme Court justice, it was open season. And then he learned in 2004, after the LA Times reported on Harlan Crow in particular, because he had disclosed some of that stuff. They reported on the disclosures. He just stopped disclosing, and then kept doing it and ramped it up.
Yeah.
Do
I think the Democrats are going to do it? I mean, no, I don't think they will when the Senate comes back. I think that they'll give some speeches, but I it's hard for me to, there is, I think, a very quiet, bipartisan opposition to, exposing the lifestyle that people like that live. and I think it was sort of apparent in the Kavanaugh hearings with how little appetite there was for even asking questions about his debts being disappeared and the gifts he received and things like that. There was just very little appetite for digging into that stuff. So
for obvious reasons.
Yeah, yeah. And so what I would imagine is there will be a renewed push for some sort of I think there might be like a carrot and a stick thing where they threaten to do something to the court in order to get them to self-police more, or at least pretend to self-police more. But I think like you're not going to see the sort of action that would actually lead to results, which would be like admitting that the Senate has the ability to not just impeach justices, but like to make it a lot more difficult for someone to remain on the court if it is decided that they are cartoonishly corrupt.
Right. But they clearly have that power, and it would be electorally beneficial too.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because for if you're worried about a certain level of electoral kind of not nihilism, but just like the beaten down nature of feeling like, I want to protect abortion, but what can I do with my vote because of these priests that sit until their dying day on the court and can do whatever they want and impose rules on me. I mean, even the student debt thing, like how deactivating, how demobilizing is that, where Biden announces it and then just they decide, nope, never mind.
Well, yeah. And like I've been saying,
targeting them in that way would be at least like messaging wise saying we're trying to do the best that we can to rein in these corrupt psychos.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like I've been saying this for a while now, but the Democrats do not have any coherent messaging on what they're going to do about the courts and about the judiciary. They just don't, because they're scared to promise to do anything real. And so therefore, like, if you cannot tell your supporters, here's what we're going to do about it, you cannot expect them to just keep showing up and supporting you, right? And I don't see that. I think that the protestations that like there's only so much we can do. Those ring hollow when there's all these avenues that they're just not pursuing. So I don't know. I mean, I really don't know, but they need to think of something they can do, because it does just engender this enormous cynicism, like you were saying. If once everyone learns this stuff about Clarence Thomas and about the Supreme Court, and nothing is done about it, like all that can do is engender cynicism.
And like among the people who have given them money, because it's like, you get all these email notifications about this. Like the one thing that they can do is flood your email inbox with donation solicitations.
With donation requests. Yeah, exactly.
But people are going to like that actually like raises people's consciousness about these things. And then when they don't actually get addressed, or there's some sort of like abstruse reasoning behind why nothing gets done on it, like, you're going, there's only it's
going to demoralize. It demoralizes
Exactly.
people. It demoralizes people. Yeah.
Totally.
So, I don't know. Yeah.
And it's just amazing that the no one has faith in the Supreme Court as an institution, except for really the Democrats, which is embedded in their not doing anything about this, which is that eventually it'll fix itself. Eventually. Eventually Alito will die. Eventually Clarence Thomas will die. And hopefully the coin flip will be heads this time, and we'll have a Democrat as president, and we'll be able to put someone in, and the institution will fix itself. It is an organism that is constantly reproducing justice. That's genuinely how they feel about the court. Yeah.
And also there's also this really powerful sense, pervasive in Washington, pervasive among Democrats, and I think like not just on the Supreme Court, but especially in terms of the Supreme Court, this pervasive belief that like the cure is worse than the disease, or like in almost anything you can think of, they will say it might sound good if we did something about the problem, but what if that had negative consequences? And like that's literally just like their go-to line for everything. And I think that's like, there's only so many times you can go to that well as we learn more and more about how the Supreme Court works.
That's also like the Republican argument against government. Like,
yeah, it
you
is.
can't
It literally
do
is.
anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That is a great point. Just how institutionalism, in a way, is the more like watered down version of being anti-government, because the institutions shouldn't be in and of themselves pure and like holy. They just have to be constantly held accountable and updated too by the democracy, by the people that feel the effects of those institutions. But
yeah, right.
Anyway, Alex Pareene, always a pleasure, as Sam likes to say. I say one of the BFFs of the show. That's how I'm going to sign off with you, and also of the AP newsletter, contributing editor at the New Republic, host of the Politics of Everything, the podcast that you do at the New Republic. Thanks so much, Alex. Really appreciate your time today.
Of course, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. All right, guys, quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Francesca Fiorentini for more on this Casual Friday. Trying to do Matt's job. We are back with Francesca Fiorentini of the Bitchuation Room. One of my favorites. How you doing, Francesca?
It's good. Yeah, I'm okay. It's Friday. I'm chilling. I think I'm gonna check out the picket lines here in LA. The baby is gonna come with, just sort of as like a sympathy attachment. And I think it'll really get to Zaslav's heart, you know? It'll just melt his heart.
Yeah. Is she cute enough?
Wow. Wow. Are you kidding me? Is she cute enough? No. Yeah, of course she's cute enough. I'm still debating, like, you know, late term abortion, like 10 months into it. We'll see.
Well, that's your right.
Yep.
As every leftist would affirm.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm sending this to a Fox News assignment editor right now.
Gosh, you're a double agent here, Bradley. Knew it all along. What's going on in the Bitchuation Room? You want to plug that right out the gate?
Everybody, I mean, every week, comedians, activists, organizers, experts coming on the show, and it's been really good. We've been talking about the strike a lot. We've been thrown down. We're going to talk, actually, I do like a bonus show today for the patrons. I'm going to talk about very interesting, some of that China money that might be influencing some nonprofits in the United States and some like people we might consider comrades. Does that matter? So Alex Reed Ross, who's written about this, is going to talk to me in a little bit. That's at 1:00 Pacific. But also, guys, if you like stand-up, I'm going to be doing stand-up in San Francisco at the Punchline on October 17th with a comedian and my beloved Matt Lieb. So you guys should come check it out if you're a fan.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Wait, what? San Francisco when again, did you say?
October 17th. It's a Tuesday. It's a very hot day. Very difficult to book a Tuesday. I don't know if you guys know that. But no, yeah, come out if you're in SF or the Bay and you want to, check out some stand-up. But no, man, things are good. I'm glad to go to the picket line. It's a randomly like not sweltering day in Los Angeles. So I think you're going to have a lot of literally fair weather picketers coming out.
But those are the ones that fill in the gaps, the fair weatherers, right? And
we do.
And that's important too, just solidarity in numbers.
Absolutely. Also, I'm not in either union, so this is also my attempt to be like, hey, when this is all over, remember I was here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right?
hire me.
Sam was on the picket lines yesterday in New York.
It'd be nice if it like turned into like a sort of a solidaristic union or networking opportunity. Like I watched the A24 movie Talk to Me, and I was happy to see that because A24 has complied with the union demand, so they're allowed to go forward with productions through this.
That's right.
And to me, it's like I don't know. I don't need movies from the studios. I don't need another movie from a studio that doesn't want to comply with. Because I mean, I don't watch many movies anyway. But like, if you're a studio that's not wanting to give into union demands here and want to use AI, like, I don't need your product anymore. I'll just go watch A24 and whatever studios will fall in line.
Yeah, I think the problem is like where the fact that the streamers now just have all of that content when it's not in theaters.
And like those, I mean, the capitalization of those giant companies it comes from the robbery of the workers previously. So it bears it's useful to and worthwhile to like claw as much of that back. But as far as me as a consumer, like I don't care about their products.
Totally.
So you're not into Marvel? Is that what you're trying to say?
I have not seen a Marvel movie since like the original Iron Man.
Oh really?
Yeah, I
you
just
didn't even
don't
see
care
all
about
the
none of that.
crossover ones.
No.
I knew I liked you, Matt, for like your political takes, but also same. I was dragged to Spider-Man, the last one, whatever the one. It was like Zendaya was cool, or Zendaya, my bad. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get a lot of hate, but not into Marvel. That being said, VFX folks are voting to unionize.
Oh yeah,
I'm not sure if they already have, but
they're very exploited. I mean, like so much of the work that they do just doesn't. It gets scrapped. They're overworked. They're underpaid.
And the crunch is crazy with Marvel because they specifically Marvel will basically be like. Marvel sometimes, according to some VFX people who like spoke under the condition of anonymity because like they'd lose their jobs if they said this stuff to reporters, was like they'll look at it and be like, "Can you do this faster?" And they'll be like, "It's gonna look terrible," and they're like, "We don't care."
See the Flash
more.
Yeah, it's like even or like Doctor Strange or any of those with like, a lot of special effects or the Black Widow movie. It's like they literally don't care if it looks good. They need to make the installment calendar
content
function. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, as someone who's come from content, I have to say the like downward pressure of this general market and turning everything into just, like unregulated internet content that is, just feeding the algorithm is particularly sad. And also it's a threat to my job, which is to make that content.
Oh, we are all content makers here.
Yeah.
Proudly
creative.
so. Yeah. But it is. It's a threat to free expression. I think that like and to art in that way. Because when it becomes so financialized, that hurts the art and it hurts the workers. When ostensibly these studios and streamers are supposed to be producing like a modern form of art, which is television and movies, even if some of it is crap. But
I think what has to happen is someone has to, like, once A-listers get the crap beat out of them, like, that's when it's go time. Like, I do want to see, like, Ron Perlman, like, throwing fists. I want to see Billy Crystal actually, like, get aggressed upon in the same way that, like, hotel workers here in LA have been aggressed upon. It's not going to happen.
Right.
But that might be a breaking point.
I was just gonna say, like that all this is happening at the same time. It feels like there's a lot of work to be done because our discourse isn't conducive to like drawing the connections between a UPS driver and an actor like Ron Perlman. But like the truth is people are being screwed by the same structures, which is just ownership. Just taking more and more because they can.
Right.
Yep.
And maybe let's play that. Speaking of strike actions, let's play this UPS or not the UPS, the Jim Cramer UAW
Teamsters,
thing.
yeah.
Teamsters thing. So here's Jim Cramer, who has, what'd you say?
I can't remember if he's talking about the Teamsters or
No,
UAW.
it's UAW.
Oh, right,
yeah.
because of Fane. Yeah.
So Jim Cramer has just been on a complete heater of horrible anti-labor takes. I mean, he has horrible.
It's his job.
That's part's his job, but he's also ostensibly supposed to be giving investment advice, and he's bad at that too. Just like look up his track record. There have been analyses of how bad his investment advice has been over the years.
Still on television.
Still on
however.
television.
My God.
Just getting
Beautiful.
all these retirees to give their money away to the next fad. That's Jim Cramer's job. And
where did he stand on crypto? Was that like, sorry, I've got to do that?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I'm not sure. But even if he's just doing traditional like investments in that way, the analysis of his advice has been overwhelmingly negative in terms of results that he's providing for people. And again, he's an entertainer. But like if you're 80 years old and you're watching CNBC, you might not know that. And you might internalize messages like this. This is him talking about the UAW, which has a new president, Sean Fain, and it's the United Auto Workers Union. They represent 150,000 employees, so it's a very large union, and they are likely headed towards, potentially not, but they may be headed towards a strike because the contract expires between them and the automakers on September 14th at midnight. So this is Jim Cramer talking about that possibility.
Trucks and the incredible Facebook performance by Sean Fain yesterday, where he just called the Stellantis offer trash. We're going to have, right when we start talking about the presidential election, I think the biggest strike our country has had in years, which is the UAW.
You think that's going to happen?
Yeah.
You don't think Gene Sperling can talk both sides off of ledges?
No, Gino can't do it because this guy who runs the UAW reminds me of Earl Browder. I mean, he's like a longshoreman union. The stevedores.
Well, today's the 100th day of the writers on strike.
Right.
And that rhetoric isn't cooling down after Friday's apparently failed meeting.
No, I mean, these things matter tremendously. The auto strike is going to, I have Dana on tonight.
When?
Not Zool. I have Zool
September
on tomorrow.
14th
Dana
is the
tonight. September 14th. But the fellow who's running it is just going around telling, like, if you walked in there, he would tell you. I mean, he says horrible things. He's talking about a kleptocracy, that the people who own these stocks are just bad people. I mean, Americans own these. I mean, it's like it's in your 401k.
Yeah, I haven't been focused.
Oh, you've got to focus on this guy.
Can we just
this guy is just.
Pause it there for a second.
I took my eye off the ball. I haven't been focused.
Like, we don't need to be moralistic about it. The people like making money by owning stock is a parasitical relationship to compared to like the workers that actually build these cars. Like,
it's definitionally passive.
And so like this is what Cramer exists to do. Like that. I think like buy this stock, buy that stock is like something he occupies his time with. But he's there to represent the interests of investors at large.
Right.
And anytime labor gets more of that pie than less, then the investors get less, regardless of like which company they put the chips on.
Yeah.
But like, how much is he actually making a year? Like to be so protective, and like the media is great at this, right? But like someone like Cramer, I don't know, $500,000, $1 million a year. Like, what is he actually making? And he's just protecting like billionaires, someone he's never going to reach, even like, whatever the pockets of.
$5 million a year according to Google, which like
never mind, worth it, totally worth it. How can I get this job? How can I no, I think it's incredible that look, 10% of the American people own stock. Like 10% of Americans. It's not like a lot of us, I'm at that age a little bit of like, is it bad I'm not invested anywhere with what little of money that I have? Also, like, am I the last one to have a gun? Those are the two things that sort of like enter my head.
Yeah.
Like, does everyone have a gun? Everyone raise your hand if you've got stock and or a gun.
I think that though, like, your experience is much more similar to our age cohort than
who
people
invests?
above, because the one, we just like don't have disposable income in the way that our parents did, and two, the numbers bear this out, that the like under 40 coalition of people has much less money invested in the stock market than the previous generation. But let's just get this like money quote at the end here from Cramer.
Stocks are just bad people. I mean, Americans own these. I mean, it's like it's in your 401k.
Yeah, I haven't been focused.
Oh, you've got to focus on this guy.
All right.
This guy is he was made for our show.
We should bring him on?
Oh, I want him on. Sean Fain.
Ooh, I want to see
he
that.
should be like a co-host.
Yeah, go on.
He is so electric. He is third rail. He is using rhetoric that Elizabeth Warren would say, keep your mouth shut.
Really?
Oh, Elizabeth Warren would say, keep your mouth shut. My favorite thing is so he's a Bernie Sanders type. Sure. Great. But like, my favorite thing too is how Elizabeth Warren is the ultimate villain of
all those people
those
hate
Wall
her
Street
so
people.
much,
They
yeah.
hate
They hate
everyone on Wall Street. Vile, like just hatred towards her, which they've now somewhat extended to Lena Khan in the form of
she's
dozens and dozens of
That's a
Wall
good point,
Street
yeah.
Wall Street Journal op-eds crapping on her. But go ahead, Matt.
Jim Cramer thinks that Sean Fain is a combo of like Malcolm X and Freddy Krueger, like the most electrifying orator, but also like haunts people's dreams.
Yeah, he's the chupacabra of the finance world.
It's unbelievable.
But he's also kind of saying like debate me, and also like, oh, he'd get clicks. Like there's a little bit of that in there.
Well, he's still a
Which I'm
media
like-
guy at the end. This is Sean Fain. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is what Kramer was talking about here with regards to he didn't just call it trash, he dramatized it.
The union Babadook here. Sean Fain.
Everything they're looking for in this document is about concessions. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do with their proposal. I'm going to file it
what is he gonna
in
do?
its proper place.
Oh, no.
That's where it belongs, the trash, because that's what it is. So everything they're looking
Oh my Hell yeah, Sean.
And I mean,
Jim Cramer wetting
Fran's
himself.
so afraid.
Jim Cramer
But
wetting
did the
himself.
same thing. This is how it starts.
Last week, David Griscom and I had Darna Noor on a Left Reckoning, and we talked about Sean Fain and talking about all sorts of stuff that I really like to hear a union leader talk about, which is like one of the person saying like you got to get them to respect the 40-hour work week, and he's like, yeah, actually we got to move down to 32-hour work week. We should not be wasting so much of our lives earning profit for a boss. And it's like, damn, man, like this is. And we saw this with Mick Lynch and the RMT strikes in the UK, but as somebody who is a socialist propagandist as a job, it is so nice to have to be able to substitute union leaders for politicians because look, there's a lot of politicians I love, Bernie down to the squad. I think they do a lot of good work, but it's a lot more clear when it's people actually fighting to put food on the table of their members. Because there is of course politics that have to be done here too, but it's a lot more direct.
Well, they don't have the same calculations. We don't know about backroom deal. Like I saw, criticism of AOC for endorsing Bernie and stuff like that, and we don't know what concessions she got. We'll never know. Probably we don't know what those negotiations.
Which is one of the problems with that strategy, though. Like it's alienated from the DSA should have some committee that is if we, and I think we need to grow DSA more so we like that's worth AOC's time to have that level of accountability. But like that is a problem where like if you're making based on you as an individual politician these sorts of, and it's somewhat unavoidable, but if you're making these decisions and the movement has no idea what you're doing, that is not a good situation to be in.
I'm in agreement. My point is just that's what that's why
right.
politicians are limiting in that way. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think in union memberships, like there's no political litmus test. They're of all stripes, right? There might be Trumpers there. But what's the contract? What are we getting for it? And that's not to say like reach across the aisle and actually the far right and the far left can come together. No. But it does keep everything a lot more concrete and accountable. And that's the thing with like, organizations like the DSA or the lack of a movement is there's no direct line of accountability. And, you could argue there was a little bit in terms of the Sunrise Movement, a little bit of Justice Dems when it came to like that whole, remember the working groups between the Bernie Biden camps?
Mm-hmm.
It's better than the nothing that preceded it, certainly.
Yeah,
absolutely. It is. It's a step, but I do think like we kind of lost the thread and there still isn't a movement.
But I think this sort of stuff, like, I think this is what we were missing. Like, I don't think a movement can come just from electoral season.
Yep.
Right.
I think we need, like, actually these sorts of people to set the agenda. So then all of a sudden you have Marianne Williamson and Corbyn or anybody like trying to get attention off this stuff for the electoral season because that's when people pay attention. set the agenda on this instead of like should the 3 kids in Utah who want trans affirming care, should we bully them with the governor's office?
Yeah, right.
I just back to finance. Like there was this really scary article that came out in early 2020 when like Warren and Bernie were jumping out strong. I mean, I don't know if Warren really ever jumped out strong. Oh, okay. But like, you know, when it was like clear that they were getting a lot more traction and especially Bernie, right? And it was like unnamed Wall Street execs who were like, look, I think Donald Trump tried to overthrow this nation and a democratic election, and I don't agree with any of that, but yes, I would vote for and prefer a second Donald Trump term than Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders.
Oh, totally.
That will always persist. So I just like, if we ever get traction, if and when we really actually have, we win that primary, watch how finance and Wall Street will completely throw down with the fascists time and time again.
Every time. Speaking of presidential elections, I wanted to play this DeSantis clip here. Curious about your womanly perspective on this, Francesca, because this is like, you know, a way that I guess conservatives like to conceive of their marriages, right? As being traditional, and the woman doing wifely duties, and the man doing the manly duties, like shitting the bed on the campaign trail, that kind of thing. This is Ron DeSantis with his wife. And she here speaks about when she was undergoing some sort of medical treatment. She had cancer, okay? This is how Ron supported her. This seems incredibly basic to me, but curious what your take is on this level of, you know, giving that he gave to his wife going through cancer.
That comes upon your family, and so I had to rely on him in a really big way. There were times when I was going through 6 rounds of chemotherapy, I was going through 6 weeks of radiation and 3 surgeries, and I couldn't get up. I couldn't do very many things. I couldn't pick up my 3-year-old when they wanted me to hold them, and I had to tell them a little bit of a fib that mommy's arm hurts and I have to go back to the hospital because it's about my arm, and it wasn't about the arm. And to this day, they have no idea of what I've been through, and I'll tell them. To have to tell your they don't know. I've never told my kids about the cancer battle because they don't think that they're old enough to really understand what that means, and so at some point we will tell them. But you asked the question about what kind of a dad he is. When you're going through opportunities where you can barely scrape yourself off the bathroom floor because you're sick, and your children are calling for you and you physically cannot get to them, but you have somebody who was not only running the state of Florida and was there for the people of his state, he was there for me. And he was there to go pick up my kids when I couldn't. And he did it with humility, and he did it with love.
Weird.
And I'll tell you what,
I'll pick
can't
him
ask
up.
for a better husband than that.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
How does it feel? How does it feel to hear her say that? I mean,
well, look, that's, you know, in sickness and in health, that's what you sign up for. I mean, and so she's not only my wife, she's my best friend, and she's the person that I would want. I've always dreamed to be the mother of my children, and so, you know, this is just what you do. I mean, you know.
What a sacrifice! What a sacrifice that he made.
In Florida, on the way home from work, I got him.
I know, I was the governor, but I still picked up the kids.
In
when
Florida,
you were
I picked up my
chemo.
children. In Florida.
Yeah, but back to woke Disney. You see, here's the thing: Ariel was never meant to be black, and like
we're seeing Ariel as a trans, and she's a mermaid.
Yeah, it's very radical politics under the sea. There's a transgender agenda under the sea. That's actually part of the song when they sing it. Fish can, in fact, change genders, and I think we need to talk more about that. But she said, my kids. Now, from what I just, sleuthed on Wikipedia, I was like, wait, does she have kids from another marriage? That she's like, my kids? Like, what's going on? No.
The favor would make a little more sense.
They're their kids. Also, favor, the way you said, like.
I mean, I said that, but yeah.
Right, they're your kids. So anyway, he picked up the kids. And he's just going, well, anyway, that's what I signed up for. And here's what I watched this clip and I'm like, yo, that's the face of someone. Look, I don't know for sure, but that's the face of someone who knows deep down they're kind of a POS and they definitely cheated on her. Like, I'm just saying, because if you're really a great dad, if you're like a great dad and you were there for, you're like, I love this woman and she was so strong and she battled cancer and she got through it and our kid, all that stuff. Instead, you're like, oh God, don't tell her about what the time you partied with Matt Gaetz.
The thing I see though, Francesca, is like the fact that he seems uncomfortable with her getting the opportunity to speak in this way. Like he doesn't like that.
She's much. I will say, I watched I unfortunately watched like 15 out of the 20 minutes of this interview. She is way better at politicking than he is.
Apparently, she's the one who's been the Lady Macbeth right behind the scenes.
Like she's very well spoken. She's very
but...
well spoken. And like when he talks, I'm like, wait, like. It almost seems like she is the one running for president, and he's like sort of her lackey.
She can't because she needs to be with the kids. That's what women do, and only in extreme circumstances, when they're getting chemotherapy and radiation, do they not do their wifely duties. And it's really big of Ron to have acted a little bit like a woman, and spend time with the kids. That's for women.
Did I stop by a high school kegger a little bit on the way to and from?
That's when he spends time with children.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the context.
Can we that was a NBC News reporter who asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
She was the one, by the way, who did the Fetterman interview, and she was like, he was extremely cognitively impaired.
Interesting, because like this is like journalism for like adult babies.
Mhm.
Like why?
I think that was on the Today
A relevant
Show.
question is, you were first lady. Who paid for that cancer insurance? And do you think like maybe we should extend that? Like cancer is horrible. To use it as a propaganda device to get fucking Ron DeSantis elected is despicable to me.
Yeah.
And like to be like, oh yeah, he was there to pick up the kids from soccer practice. I'm sorry that we are so far removed from anything relevant to people's lives.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's emotional. So like NBC News. Like that should have been Newsmax. What are we doing?
Well, that's a daytime. I think it was aired on the Today Show, right?
The preview was aired on the Today Show, but that specifically, the longer interview was like It was like
a nightly news
It was the NBC
segment?
News special aired. Like that segment as well as the DeSantis one-on-one interview were both like on Lester Holt's.
Get to know the candidates are horrible pieces of journalism.
Yeah, they're terrible.
I don't care. Let's talk about how Ron DeSantis is overseeing this deep discrimination against gay and trans kids in the state. Let's talk about his past with allowing for torture in front of his face, as he's supposed to be the advocate
for wanting to cut Medicaid or Medicare, right? And both of those programs. But I think that's such a great pivot of like, how did you survive that? What was it like? What was the experience in and out of the hospital? Were the bills piling up?
How do you
all
feel,
of that.
Does it make you empathize with like your constituents who write into the governor's office saying, "Hey, I'm going broke because I got cancer"?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it also proves that they're trying so hard to make Ron DeSantis a formidable, a couth Republican opponent. And they can't. And every time he's like offered, like, hey, here's a child with an ice cream cone. Be normal, dude. He's just like, why ain't so much sugar? And they're like, oh God.
Yeah, Bradley's gonna pull up the latest retail. Well, we've played this many times, but it never gets old. This is
actually a bit of a longer clip of him doing the have a beer with Ron thing, and he just like doesn't really know how to talk to other people.
Look, I've been at parties and I've been exactly like this. This is the most DeSantis has been relatable to me.
But relatable is not what Republican voters want.
Of course, yeah.
Like,
No, they
they want strong
party
man.
king.
Trump. They want the guy that's gonna be like, I'm the president. I'm the decider.
There's a new cage around back. Go get it, guys.
Not the guy that's socially
he can definitely
anxious.
provide that.
I would literally never share a beer with you.
Yeah.
So fun. Oh God.
I've been here. Staying late. I mean, what time is it? It's gotta be past 10 o'clock.
God, I gotta go.
It's too late to call my wife. They're all sleeping right now. Yeah, 11 o'clock. Yeah, no. I mean, we normally, like, I know you got to do events, but like, we're usually like pumpkins once we get to 10 at night. As long as we get the kids down, my wife and I, we craft. That's awesome.
Oh, God. try to enjoy that course.
We're gonna see you guys at the fair and everything like that. So we're gonna go to Brenda's, and I'm doing.
Yeah. I spent 40 minutes with my staff determining what beer I should drink. It's got to be cheap, but it can't be Bud Light because that's for the trans. So I got this Coors Light, and I really want to get out of here.
I love that construction. Looking at my phone for the time, implying that I heavily do not want to be here and would rather be asleep. And
Usually I am asleep.
Then very matter-of-factly saying, okay, so we'll see you later, I guess, right at the fair.
Yeah, and
I've see it another time.
I've been in that situation. You don't drink a beer faster than when you're like not wanting to be there, but using it as a way to like stop your mouth from just saying whatever comes into it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But that's not but that's your quality, Matt, as someone who loves like books and video games. This is a person who's running for president. So
yeah, Matt's just like, hey, you guys rather be reading right now? You're like,
I was playing Resident Evil recently, and in Florida, we hate zombies.
But it's just for the camera. First of all, we are in a conference room of a hotel, the least exciting place. There's not even
the lighting is horrible.
There's the lighting. Exactly. I'm saying there's not even mood lighting. There's not even little like
where they get that
colored
carpet
lights.
from.
Exactly. Surrounded by cameras, given a Coors just like in their hand, and they just have to chit chat, and he cannot do it.
No.
At all.
I mean, to be clear, when we have like meetups ahead of the Majority Report live shows, I'm way more affable than that. I'm just talking about other situations.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. We believe you. I believe you for sure.
Yes. Well, I've experienced it.
Okay, Ken. This is some like we're gonna
Sam's
break
not
into.
here.
We're gonna. Did you say because you're high or you're hot?
I don't know. I think it was some interference. I'm not sure. I said hi.
He said hi.
Oh, I thought you said because I'm hot, and I was like, all right,
I
go
probably
off,
hope so,
Matt.
yeah. I like my chances over DeSantis.
I mean, anyone.
No,
should.
here's the thing. He can't work a room. You know, where you got to get in the room. You're like, hey, how's your wife? Nice. Hey, how's it hanging? Oh, let me touch them. You know, like there's, sorry.
But yeah, I really wish I was home right now. I'm really tired.
Yeah, we're usually asleep right now. Anyway.
Wow, it's so early. I want to go to sleep.
Do you guys like sleep?
Every
Cool.
human does that, right?
Does everyone
Sometimes
else
I'm
sleep?
sleeping, sometimes I'm awake, and I kind of alternate between those two states.
Beer, wow, beer.
Wow,
Interesting
beer.
taste.
We usually drink an Aperol Spritz. You ever heard of a Spritz? No, Spritz is for
Also-
you. Yeah, it's lighter.
One other connection that I learned just glancing over DeSantis' wife's
He drinks
Wikipedia.
Aperols.
They
Yeah,
got married.
totally.
Guess where they got married?
Where?
In Florida. Where would you get married in Florida? That might be ironic. For,
Mar-a-Lago?
Might be ironic for DeSantis.
Yeah,
That's
gotta
a
be
good guess.
Mar-a-Lago. It's gotta
Disney.
be-
He
the
got
Disney
married at
Castle.
Disney. And so like this anti-Disney guy who got married at Disney is also like referencing pumpkins, which is my understanding is a reference to Cinderella. Like this guy can't get Disney out of the brain.
Oh, he's a Disney adult. That's why he's so upset by the wokeness, right? It feels like a betrayal.
He is. He definitely has like one of those little mini backpacks, you know, like Minnie Mouse mini backpacks where you're like, really? He's got like a keychain, the whole thing.
Yeah.
He's got the ears.
And he doesn't even do Disney adulting in the fun way that I've heard of, which is just like getting high and going on the rides. That sounds fun. He's
I
probably
think it's
like,
microdosing shrooms and then going on Toad's Magic Wild Ride or.
I mean,
like
why
that.
not both?
I do think that all of our politicians. What?
I said it's cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be thinking about that $350 I spent to get through the gate the entire
That's
trip.
true. That's true. That's true. But not for Ron. He's dead sober, grimacing as he goes down Splash Mountain.
He has passes. He has like annual passes that they had to like rip up in front of the little kids.
I would love to see the picture of Ron, that they take on the roller coasters at like the peak moment of thrill. And
Yes.
it's like you can buy it for $20 afterwards. I'd like to see those of Ron's, mouth wide open.
I'd like to buy them.
How many
honestly.
dimples does he have? Just like without looking.
A bunch, but they're not in the places you'd expect. not in the right places. I'll say that. Anyway.
Oh, it's fun because he's gonna lose, guys.
Yeah, I really love piling on because he's a horrible human being. I don't know who I hate more, him or Trump. At least Trump's fun sometimes.
And the other thing is they'll never run Casey. Like, even if that were the smarter move for Florida, for the country, if, she used to be a broadcaster, whatnot, or a host, like, she could crush. but she will never be able to because she's married to that deadweight Ron DeSantis.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Francesca.
Anyway, support your strong men.
I'm
Emma,
letting you go.
Bradley, Matt, let me go. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been real.
No, yeah, I mean, again, check out the Bitchuation Room. It's great stuff.
Thank you.
Big fan. Francesca's the best.
Thank you.
All right, and check out, if you're in San Francisco, October 17th.
Yes, I think there's a link maybe somewhere in the description, but bye. Hope to see you guys again.
All right, see you soon.
Bye, Francesca.
Bye. All right, guys, with that, we're going to wrap up the free part of this show. Head into the fun half. We'll take your calls, read your IMs, have some fun. The number 646-257-3920. Reminder, guys, Sunday is Michael Brooks's 40th birthday. We will be celebrating his memory on Monday. So tune in for that. But before, happy birthday, Michael, on Sunday. So check that out on Monday. It'll be a great show. Matt, what's happening on Left Reckoning?
Left Reckoning, we had Caleb Brooks on to talk about degrowth on Sunday. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning. David and I are going to be taking issue with not the live commenters of Majority Report, who are great, but the YouTube commenters on the video that we posted last night about the woman who was complaining and got showed on Fox News because she said the American dream is gone because her kids can't afford rent. And I must say, I look at the comments to that video, and I'm so disgusted by the amount of people who say that's what you get for voting Republican, or maybe blame Reagan and Bush. That you think the only response to that is that you behave yourself better on election day, instead of saying broadly this is a problem where people are growing in awareness that the water around them is growing to a boiling point. I think shows a real deficiency in the and I don't think it's the people who watch the show live. I think it's more the drive-by commenters. That video has got 100,000 views.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of work to do with regards to feel. And look, all sides vote shame. I think the people that are very superior about that I only vote Green Party and people who vote Democrat support imperialism, I think they're bad. But this vote shaming by Democrat partisans is just man, you guys aren't even close. The idea that if we would have had more Clinton terms or more Obama terms, that rent wouldn't be basically what it is now. I find
it's a shallow understanding of politics.
It's really bad,
and it's not. You have to be on the left. Be interested in ameliorating suffering for everybody, not just your political.
And you can't blame
allies.
You can't blame propagandized people for being propagandized. Everybody who makes those sort of comments would probably feel in their own little social group that they're the Noam Chomsky that understands how the media is lying to people, and yet you react to people who have been misled their entire lives by, billion-dollar media organizations, and you just call them idiots. And that's misanthropy. That's where I say you can't be misanthropic and actually be on the left. You're just going to be a reactionary liberal.
Right. And on ESPN, we spoke about the U.S. women's national team's loss, the Republican backlash to it and cheering of it, I should say. Netflix's quarterback series, how awesome that was. We gave our thoughts on it and gave some options for NFL rookies with fantasy upside. YouTube.com/ESPN show. All right, guys, again, the number is 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun.
Are you ready?
Who sent us
this? Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Dinner.
Yeah, or a couple of them, just put them in rotation.
DJ Dinner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs that look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males.
Psych. Fuck them. Fuck them. Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what? A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of